Welcome back, students. This is Dr. Mercado speaking. Welcome once again to another series of lectures for Accounting 1329, Payroll and Business Tax Accounting. In this series of lectures, we are going to continue covering Chapter 4, which deals with income tax withholding. Okay. Now, I reviewed the assignments from the prior week that we covered Chapter 4, and I identified some students continue to struggle with figuring out the federal income tax using both the percentage method and the wage bracket method. So I've selected some problems that I think will help strengthen your understanding of some of the content. But before you even begin working on your assignments, please make sure that you've read the chapter. If you don't read, you're not going to understand what we're doing. Okay, so reading is essential. Read the chapter, review the PowerPoints, listen to the lectures both that I've posted in Blackboard, as well as those show me how videos that are embedded within your actual homework assignment. Okay. So the first problem that I'm going to be covering today is problem 4.3a. Okay. Now in this specific problem, it's a side-by-side comparison of the federal income tax for using both the percentage method and the wage bracket method. And you're going to see that after we calculate these numbers are very close, okay? Regardless of the method that you use, the numbers are going to be very close to each other, okay? Of course, the wage bracket method is a lot simpler. All we have to do is, based on the information provided, we have to go into a table and pick a number based on those specifics. In the percentage method, we will also use tables, but there is calculations involved, okay? So we're going to go over and there's 5 examples. We have weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, and monthly pays. We've got single or married finally joined, okay? So we're going to go over this. Now, I want to share with you the major difficulty that I had while I was working these problems were using the tax tables provided in your ebook, okay? I had problems. I have vision problems. I wear glasses, and those numbers were very small. The orientation of the tables were not helping. So I had difficulty. So what I did is, for all of you that are struggling in that specific area, I'm going to show you. I went online and I downloaded publication 15T. This is the federal income tax withholding methods for the use in 2021. Okay, as explained in your textbook, we are using the 2021 tax rates because due to the publication deadlines, the 2022 tax tables were not available yet, or no, they were not finalized. So usually, even though we have the 2022 edition, on our tax tables, we are usually a year behind for those purposes of the IRS publishing those tables at a specific time. Okay, so make sure that when you do a Google search for publication 15T, federal income tax withholding, make sure that you are using the 2021 year. Okay, and here you'll find all of the different tax tables that we're going to be using. We've got for automated payroll systems. We are not using automated payroll systems. We are using manual payroll systems. So make sure that you just reference the correct tables, okay? So I'm going to get started on the problem, and I'm going to first use or complete the wage bracket tables, okay? So I'm going to click here, and here you are. These are my 2021 wage bracket method tables for a manual payroll system with forms W4 from 2020 or later. These are the forms in your book. They're a little bit more user-friendly. I can see them better. They're better organized. So I'm going to be using these. It's the same forms from your book. It's just for me, it's easier to use and see. Plus, if needed, I can make them larger. Okay. So this is what I'm going to be using. I recommend that you download it and you have the file like on the side. That way it's easier. That way you don't have to be toggling back and forth to your ebook and stuff like that. Just make sure that you are using the same tables that the textbook is using. Okay. So let's get started. So the first one we have Lennon. Lennon is single. He makes $775 weekly. Okay. So we're going to go and we're going to locate the weekly table, which we have here. And the problem says that Lennon is single. So we're going to be looking at the second to the last column. We're going to be looking at the standard withholding for single individuals. So make sure that you look at the single column, which is the third set of columns, the first row. Okay. And he makes $675. So we're going to go and we're going to locate that bracket. Now, be very careful. Okay, look at the dollar amount. It says at least, but less than. A common question I have is, Miss, you know, I've got $165. Do I use the first one or the second line? Okay, this is not 165. This is less than 165. So this is going to be 164.99. Okay, if you are looking at the number 165, then you would have to look at the next row, which would be the 165, at least 165. Okay, so if you're looking at that last number, it has to be the second column, okay, because this is less than that number, okay? So let's look at 675 for our first employee, 675, okay, right here. Okay, so we've got 675 and he was single. Okay, so based on that information, 675, we're using the second tier. That's between 675 and 685. We run the number across and we're using the second to the last column because that is my standard withholding. Okay, so 675, that would give me $49. Okay, $49 right there. Okay, and I can't circle here because this is a file, but $49 would be the amount, okay? So we go back and we enter $49 for my wage bracket, okay? Now I'm going to do all of them for the wage bracket, get that out of the way, and then we move on to the percentage, okay? We're out once again in the weekly table, single, and this time they make $13.65, okay? So let's look for $13.65, and we're still using the single standard withholding column, okay? So $13.65, and we're going to be using that second column. Remember, we used the second one because that first number right here is less than $13.65, and we are using the actual $13.65. So we have to run to that second column. So it'll be $13.65. We run our number across. We're using the $13.65 to $13.75 tier right here, and that would give us 167. 167 would be our number, okay, right here, 167, okay? So we do 167. Now we're moving on to the biweekly table, okay? So we're going to go to biweekly, and this time McNeil is married filing joint, okay? And it makes $17.75, okay? So married filing joint, and we need to move on to the biweekly table. So look at your headings. Make sure that you locate the biweekly headings, okay? And McNeil makes $17.75 and is married. Married filing joint. We're using the standard withholding, so that means we're going to look at that first column, okay? So we're looking at $17.75. Okay, we keep on scrolling. Okay, $17.75. So $17.75 is between $17.60 and $17.80. And that will give me $17.60, $17.80. That would give me $81. Okay, $81 right there. Between $17.60 to $17.80. The number that we're looking at is $17.75. So it falls into that little second tier right here. And that number, federal income tax, is $81. Okay, so we go back and we enter $81. Okay, the next table we are using is the semi-monthly table. Okay, so now we're going to go and we're going to skip biweekly. Now we're at semi-monthly. Okay, now semi-monthly, married filing joint, and Harrison makes $24.80. Okay, $24.80, married filing joint. Okay, so let's look at $24.80. We're going to keep on scrolling. Make sure that you are in the semi-monthly tables, students, semi-monthly tables. Okay, and we're looking at $24.80. Okay, remember, we have $24.80 here. That is less than $24.80. So we're going to go to the next tier. So it'll be between $24.80 and $25.10. Okay, and we are married filing joint. So that means I'm using that first column. That would be $157. Okay, so it's between $24.80 and $25.10. My number, this employee, Harrison, makes $24.80 and married filing joint. So we're going to use the $157. Okay. And then last but not least, we've got our monthly tables. So let's look for our monthly tables. Remember, on the heading of the tax table, it states the payroll period type. We're looking at monthly, okay? So monthly, married filing joint, and makes $5,380, okay? 5,380. So let's look at 5,380. 5,380. So we're going to locate the tier that it falls, and it falls under this tier, that fourth tier between 53.55 and 54.15. The number is 5380. So we have to locate the tier where it falls. So it falls under that fourth tier between 53.55 and 54.15. And they are married filing joint. So we're going to be looking at the first column, standard withholding. So that would be $362. Okay, $362. So those are all of my wage bracket method federal income tax withholdings based on the tables. Okay, now we have to calculate the percentage method. Okay, so the percentage method. And if we go back over here to the top, we have the percentage method tables for manual payroll systems. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to use those. And here we are. Okay, so here are our tables. Okay, so now we're going to use one at a time. Okay, the first one we have is weekly. Okay, so we're looking at the weekly table up here. Okay, weekly table. And let me go ahead. What I am going to do is I am going to copy this into my Excel file. That way I can have the information here. And then I'll just be deleting them and bringing them in. That way I don't have to go back and forth, okay? That's just what I'm going to be doing, okay? There we go, okay? So that way we have our tables here, okay? Okay. So I'm going to go through the process, and that way we understand what we're doing. So the first one we're doing is we're going to do linen, okay? And I'm going to do my calculations down here, okay, for linen, okay? So for linen, we're going to start off with the wages, for the gross wages. Okay, so we know that linen makes $675. What we're going to do is we're going to go locate that information in our table. Okay, now linen is single. So we're going to be looking at this second box right here, single. And we're going to look at the 675 figure. That's going to be the third tier. Okay, okay, between 433 and 1021. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the last number, and that's 433. We're going to subtract that 433 from the 675 to figure out the amount that's actually taxable for federal income tax purposes. Okay, so then let me get my calculator out. So that's 675 minus 433. That'll be 242. Okay. I'm then going to multiply it by the rate. I'm going to be working backwards. Remember? Backwards. So that percentage is 12%. Okay. So let's see what that gives us. 242 times 12%. That gives me 2904. Okay. And then I'm going to add that additional amount that's on the third column going backwards. That 1920. I'm going to add those 1920. Let's see what that gives us. 2904 plus 1920. That will give me 4824. That will be the amount of my federal income tax to be withheld for linen. 4824. So if you compare the percentage method with the wage bracket method, it's a couple of cents off. Okay. These are whole numbers. These one have some cents. Okay, but very close. Okay. So that is what we did for linen. Okay. We're going to continue using the weekly table for Star. Okay. Now Star made $13.65 a week. Okay. We're going to go and we're going to locate the table, and Star is also single. Okay. So Star is single and we're looking at $13.65. So then that will be the fourth tier right here. Okay. So we're going to be using that fourth tier right there. Okay. Okay. So we're going to subtract the 1365 from that number in the end, which is 1021. And then that gives us $1,365 minus 1021. That gives me $344. This represents the amount that is taxable. Okay. I'm going to multiply it by the rate. My tax rate is 22%. So we're going to multiply that by 22%. And that gives me $75.68. Okay. And then I'm going to add that last number provided on that third column, which is 89.76. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do 75.68 plus 89.76. That gives me 165.44. Okay. So it's 165.44. And if you compare, the percentage is 165.44 versus 167 using the wage bracket. Very close in dollar amounts, okay? So we are done with the weekly payroll. Now we're moving on to the biweekly. I'm going to get rid of this table and I'm going to bring over my biweekly table. Okay, that way I'm not going back and forth. So biweekly table is right below. Okay, I'm going to bring that over. That way we have it here and we can just look at it easily. Okay. Okay. So now we have McNeil. Okay. So McNeil is married filing joint. Okay, gets paid bi-weekly and makes $17.75. So first things first, which table are we using? Married filing joint. We're using the top table. Okay. Bi-weekly and the number amount is $17.75. So we're going to locate that tier. $17.75 married filing joint. Okay. And that would be that third tier right here. Okay. So the number that we have is $17.75. That falls in that third tier. Okay. So we're going to start off with the wages for McNeil, which were $17.75. I'm going to subtract that dollar amount in column E, okay, which is $17.31, to arrive at the dollar amount that is taxable. Okay. So $17.75 minus $17.31, that's $44. Okay. We are going to multiply it by the tax rate. That's that column D right here. Okay. That's 12%. Okay. And let's see what we get. So 44 times 12%. That gives me $5.28. And then we're going to add that number in that letter C column, which is $76.60. Okay. And let's see what that gives us. We're going to add $76.60. That gives me $81.88. That is the amount of withholding for my federal income tax using the percentage method. So we've got $81.88. And if we compare it to our wage bracket, it's $81, very close, okay? So we understand what we're doing now. Locate the table, locate the tier, depending if they're married, filing joint, single, or head of household, okay? So I'm going to get rid of this table, and I'm going to bring in my semi-monthly table, okay? So let's bring in our semi-monthly table, which is the next table that we have right here. So let me bring it in. That way we just see it in one screen. I don't have to be scrolling back and forth. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So the next one we have is Harrison. Okay. Harrison is married filing joint, gets paid semi-monthly, and makes $24.80. Okay. So we're going to start off with the $24.80, his wages, and we're going to locate the tier, $24.80, and we're using the top tier because this person is married filing joint. Okay, so let's locate that tier, $24.80. We would be looking at that third tier right here. Okay. Okay. So the wages are $24.80. We're going to look at that last number, column number E, and we're going to subtract that $18.75. Okay. And then that's going to give us $24.80 minus $18.75. Oh, sorry about that. I'm having issues with my computer here. $24.80 minus $18.75. That gives me $605. And then I'm going to multiply by the rate. The tax rate for that particular tier is 12%. Okay, so let me get my calculator. So it's 605 times 12%. That gives me $72.60. And I'm going to add that number in column number C, the tentative amount to be withheld of $82.90. And let's see what we get. $72.60 plus $82.90. That gives me $155.50. So if we compare 155.50 to 157, we're very close. Okay, so these numbers are very close in nature. Okay, so regardless of the method you use, the difference is not significant. Okay. So last but not least, I've got my monthly table that I'm going to be using. So let me bring that in. Okay. So I've got my monthly table. Make sure that you are picking up the right tables. Miss, they tell me, Miss, my numbers don't match. A lot of the times that the students are using the wrong tables for the wrong pay periods. Okay. Make sure you're very careful with that. So let me bring in my monthly table just so I can have for my records and I don't have to be scrolling. Okay. Okay, so the last one we have is Smythe, or I don't know how to pronounce that. It's a weird name. Smythe. Okay. So this person makes $5,380 monthly and is married filing joint. So we're going to locate the table. We're going to be using the first set of numbers for married filing joint. And that person makes $5,380. So we're going to locate the tier, $5,380. And then that would be that third tier right here. Okay. So Smythe makes $5,380. I'm going to subtract that last number on column E, which is $3,750. Okay. And then that will give me 5,380 minus 3,750. That will give me 1,630. That is the amount that is taxable, 1,630. I am then going to multiply it by the rate, the tax rate percentage provided, which is 12%. Okay. And then that's going to give me 1,630 times 12%. That's going to give me 195.60. Okay. 195.60. And then I'm going to add that number on column C, the tentative amount to be withheld, which is 165.80. And let's see what we get. Plus 165.80. So we get 361.40. Okay. 361.40. So if we compare, we've got 361.40 versus 362. Very close in nature. Okay. So we've got all of our calculations for both the percentage method and for the wage bracket method. Remember, for the wage bracket method, we just went and we pulled those numbers from the tables. For the percentage, we do have to do some calculations. Okay. So if you compare the numbers, they're very similar in nature. Okay. Be very careful when you run your number through those tables because you can easily pick up an incorrect number. Just be very cautious. Double check 2 or 3 times before you make the final selection. Okay. And like I said, I highly recommend that you download the Federal Income Tax Withholding Methods Publication 15T from the IRS. This is online. You can just Google it for use in 2021. Okay. You can just enter a Google search, download it, save it in your computer, and that way you can easily access the different tables that they have. Like for example, here you can just select it and it'll take you to the table for the wage bracket method tables for the manual payroll systems with forms W-2 from 2020 or later. That is what we're using in our book. And then we've got the percentage method. So we're using number 2 and number 4, okay? So we've got the forms here. I recommend that you download them. They're just easier to see. You can make the screen bigger, whatever works for you, okay? That is just my recommendation that you print them out, okay? So that is the completed problem. I hope it helps you understand a little bit better how to do the percentage method and the wage bracket method calculations for federal income tax, okay? So that is basically it for this lecture. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day.